Colorado doesn't have dollars to spare, yet it was letting them fly out the door through expensive Medicaid billing.
I don't even know if it's waste so much as it's some kind of incompetence.
A nationwide strike against President Trump's immigration crackdown leads students to march on the state capitol. The inside story of a high-stakes rescue in the high country.
The entire group was deteriorating because we'd been in Arctic conditions for 4 hours.
And we sidle up to some real ones to ask our favorite Friday question. It sets aside the headlines of the week.
My good news is I'm here at the Colorado Cowboy Gathering.
That's tonight on Next. Colorado's leaders are trying to figure out an $850 million budget gap. They could certainly use the tens of millions of dollars wasted after Medicaid service providers were told to upcode their bill charges. Our Spencer Soisher looks at how the state bled money for 5 years.
If you ran a lemonade stand and sold drinks for $1 a cup, you'd expect someone to pay you $1 for that cup. But what if the customer gave you $10 for each cup? And they kept coming back and back and back for 5 years. You'd probably think this is a great business. Maybe tell your friends to get into it too.
Yeah, I think people saw the numbers and saw they could make money, and we saw an influx of new providers over the last few years.
It's similar to how the state of Colorado just found out it was wasting millions of dollars through its Medicaid program over the last 5 years. In 2020, the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing told non-emergency medical transportation providers in the Denver area that when they provide a van for an extra-large wheelchair, they should bill the state for a specialty ambulance, $640 a time. They never told them to stop.
Arguably high. You'd be hard-pressed to find providers who tell you that's not too high.
Adam Berg is an attorney representing more than 40 providers. He listened this week as staffers with the state's Joint Budget Committee told lawmakers that when the state later raised prices for specialty ambulances, it did not account for how many providers were using the ambulance code for XL wheelchair vans.
They told these providers to bill a certain code, and that code was 10 times higher than what they told other providers to bill.
In a presentation to lawmakers, JBC staff explained that it made spending balloon. Writing the correct code for transporting people in extra-large wheelchairs pays a pickup rate of $65, not $640.
Well, and you have to remember, this rate was in effect for 5 years. So you had people who entered this space in 2021 understanding this was kind of the business model. They used that large payment to subsidize some of the services.
And I don't even know if it's waste so much as it's some kind of incompetence.
The incorrect coding in the metro area was not always charging $640. It used to be like $230-ish bucks, but prices went up to be more on par with trends outside of Colorado. The state says it did not catch how out of control this had gotten or how much had been overspent because of other rate increases and other fraud claims. The budget analyst expects there to be a savings of about $90 million over the next year and a half.
That's brutal. How confident are they that they have taken this gravy train off the tracks?
I think that depends on who you ask. I think the lawmakers are certainly concerned that there may be some other strings to pull on here. What else are we not quite catching? But they think, at least the state does, that now that they've got this down to $65, that they fixed the problem in that area.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be searching the couch cushions for coins, like that sofa jingles, like check that sofa, check all the cushions on that sofa. All right, Spencer Soisher, thank you. Thousands of Coloradans joined the nationwide Ice Out demonstrations today. Schools and businesses closed in some spots as people paused everyday life to protest President Trump's mass deportations that have led to killings in Minneapolis. Aurora Public Schools and Adams 14 closed all of their school buildings today, and some Denver public schools started late or canceled programs. We saw thousands of students in Denver leave class today and march to the state capitol. Since many of them cannot yet vote, they said they felt that protesting was their chance to be heard.
People are scared in our community, and we really wanted to take a stand against that.
And I know that while it's not here right now, it very well could be. And to be part of this movement feels just like I'm doing my job as a citizen.
Across the metro area, we saw a number of restaurants, coffee shops, and other small businesses shut their doors for today's strike. The U.S. Senate has voted to pass a funding deal for most of the federal government, but not for President Trump's deportation forces. The agreement that was forced by Senate Democrats, including Colorado's 2 senators, sets up a 2-week time period for Dems to negotiate on reforms to immigration enforcement. This deal now needs House approval. Republican Speaker is asking members to scramble back for a vote on Monday. Both of Colorado's Democratic senators support legislation that would prohibit the use of DHS funding to detain children, would require ICE agents to get a warrant signed by a judge before they bust into a house, and would improve training for immigration agents. But it's not clear which concessions Republicans will agree to in return for the Democratic votes necessary to pass the government funding package. We're only a few months removed from the last government shutdown. You have to remember 43 days, but bear in mind, unlike that longest shutdown in U.S. government history, this one only relates to DHS funding. The other portions of the funding package were passed. State legislators lit up Xcel Energy today over their handling of planned power shutoffs during extreme weather. The company already got backlash from customers after shutoffs in December. Thousands of people lost power for days, and they said the communication from Xcel was a mess. Xcel presented its plan to reduce the impact of future planned shutoffs at the state legislative hearing today. Xcel President Robert Kenney said that they will use more sectionalizing devices. Those break the grid into smaller areas so fewer customers should be impacted. They also pledged to bury more of their power lines and restore power more quickly by having crews pre-positioned before shutoffs happen. Legislators pressed Xcel's leader on whether these shutoffs are really to protect the public or to protect Xcel's shareholders from lawsuits. Xcel recently paid $640 million in a settlement to marshal fire victims without starting that fire, as investigators have said.
I will tell you that it doesn't matter if we did it or not. We maintain that we didn't start the Marshall Fire. People are going to sue us regardless. So this is not a litigation avoidance technique. I don't know that there's any other way to assure people of that fact other than for me to say it and then to demonstrate the damage that we saw to our equipment afterwards.
Xcel has had 4 planned power shutoffs since 2024. State regulators are considering new rules for how those shutoffs work. They gathered feedback on that from customers earlier this week. Colorado's search and rescue teams don't charge the people that they go out and save, like the 7 backcountry skiers caught in sub-zero temperatures earlier this week outside Aspen. Our Marshall Zellinger takes us through this rescue.
Just be glad you cannot feel what you see in this video.
If you are moving, you can stay warm. By the end of it, we were probably moving like 30 feet every 30 minutes.
John Hodge is one of 7 backcountry skiers who took this route near Aspen on Sunday to get to the Goodwin Green Huts at close to 12,000 feet.
We're on a ridge past sunset, 60-mile-per-hour gusts, negative 20 degrees.
It got so bad, one of the skiers suffered severe frostbite and hypothermia and could not continue.
People were giving her piggyback rides, carrying her, and progress was really slow going.
John's nose shows a sample of the frostbite he said each member of the group suffered. 2 needed rescuing late Sunday night, with one of the skiers in critical condition. Using GPS data from one of the rescue team members, you see the flight path for the medical helicopter. There are 3 lines and lots of circles because clouds made it impossible for the helicopter to land the first 2 attempts.
I was laying on them for probably an hour while a heli did some laps and then ran out of gas and had to go back to Aspen and then came back out. So it was really gut-wrenching.
Unfortunately, at night, up in that hazardous terrain, you can't fly a helicopter into clouds when you can't see. That's a good way to have a disaster.
Jeff Edelson is the chief rescue leader for Mountain Rescue Aspen. When the helicopter landed and rescuers got to the 2 patients, one of the rescuers had to stay behind for space.
We do know that our helicopter rides in have the ability to be a one-way ticket sometimes.
After taking the patients to Aspen Valley Health early in the morning, the helicopter returned for the rescuer, then came back hours later for 2 more skiers who made it to the hut. One of them could not see because of frostbite. GPS from the second rescue shows a ground team taking essentially the same route the skiers took the day before, while a medical helicopter was able to get in and out much easier than overnight. 2 rescues for the same group at no cost, because the volunteer rescue team is free of charge.
Is there a limit to the free service?
So there is no limit to our free services of Mountain Rescue Aspen.
Would you guys go back to this hut again?
We already talked about it.
John says he'd go back and told us today his hypothermic friend continues to improve in the hospital.
The flight medics told them that we were critical in her survival.
For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
So while mountain rescues are free, getting airlifted to a hospital is not gratis. Those skiers will get billed. But when those same helicopters are used to transport the rescuers high up the mountain, that service, of course, is free to the county. Having a newborn can be an incredibly isolating experience, even for mothers who have supportive family and friends nearby. Take away those supports, and the early stages of motherhood are scary, maybe even dangerous. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the nonprofit Thriving Families. Their Motherwise program offers group workshops and one-on-one coaching for pregnant women, work that has been studied and shown to reduce early births and to give those moms the skills they need to be strong parents. Then their La Luz program focuses on reducing postpartum depression to keep mom and baby safe. Then Thriving Families' other programs continue in English and in Spanish, helping moms of newborns succeed at that time when the right intervention can change the trajectory of 2 generations. Young families that might otherwise face instability, chaos, even abuse, instead find success and good health and happiness. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to join me and a bunch of others in donating this week. And thanks to the 7,000 of you who have signed up to make a monthly recurring donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info one time, pick a donation amount, and we automatically split it among all the nonprofits we feature each month. And we expect that to mean almost $50,000 for each weekly campaign. The city of Denver is still paying up for police brutality during the George Floyd protests 6 years ago.
Music has kept me out of a day job for the last 35 years, so that's good news as well.
That is good news on a Friday indeed. The sound of the West is alive and well in Golden tonight. That's next. The city of Denver continues to pay out settlements related to the George Floyd protests nearly 6 years ago. The city has paid out millions to date, may have millions of dollars in additional settlements ahead. This is taxpayer money coming from the city fund that covers lawsuit settlements. In December, City Council approved a more than $300,000 settlement for a man named Stephen Fink. He was hit by a foam round fired by police. The round ruptured one of his testicles.
It's been really traumatic. Like, the physical injury was the least of it, even though I spent weeks unable to do absolutely anything but lay on my back in bed.
Denver Citizen Oversight Board says the city's paid out about $22 million so far in protester settlements. Another $14 million hinges on a court case that's currently on appeal. A new accountability committee is outlining reforms for RTD. Their report came out today. Last year, state legislators created this committee to make recommendations on how to improve a transit agency that has been plagued by years of unreliable service and low ridership. The committee has 14 members, has met a dozen times, and then they put out a 90-page report today recommending that the 15-member RTD board shrink to 9 members. They're recommending a comprehensive study to improve service for people with disabilities and work to improve the job quality and career opportunities for folks at RTD, along with improved coordination with local governments. Under a law passed last year, RTD must also create a 10-year master plan. They have until the end of September.
Good evening. The sun set on a really nice Friday. Lots of sunshine, temperatures seasonal in the mid-40s, but just to the east of us is lurking a big batch of cold Arctic air, and it should stay east. But right along the frontal boundary, we're actually tracking a few light snow showers tonight, moving from the northwest to the southeast over Sterling, Yuma, and Ray. That cold Arctic air mass is headed south into Florida, where they may have a few snowflakes, and then up the coast to the Carolinas, where they're dealing with a coastal low and a heavy snow event from North Carolina back up into New York and Boston for the second weekend in a row. We miss the polar vortex this time. High pressure actually really settling in, bringing us a warm, dry forecast in Denver, but the mountains will see a little bit of snow. Not enough to impact your travel, but enough to kind of freshen up the snowpack for you skiers. So temperatures tomorrow above average by about 10 degrees, 57 in Denver, 64 Sunday, increasing clouds on Monday, tracking a weak system and chance for a few snow showers Tuesday. Doesn't look all that impressive. And then we're kicking off another warming and drying trend. We're back to sunshine and 60s for Thursday and next Friday, a week from today.
Western governors got together in Washington, D.C. today to talk about how they can share water from the Colorado River. As we've long talked about, Colorado and 6 other states are struggling to agree on rules for that rapidly shrinking supply. They've been working for the past 2 years on a plan to replace a river sharing compact that was last updated in 2007. The states already missed a deadline in November to come to an agreement. If they cannot reach a deal by themselves, the dispute could end up in court. Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis put out a statement today saying that he thought their discussion was, quote, productive and reflected the seriousness this moment requires. The agreement must be put in place by the end of September to guide water use in 2027. Cowboys and cowgirls are gathering around the campfire today, celebrating poetry, Western music, and the art of storytelling. We'll take you there next. Stock show may be over, but the Western way of life was still celebrated in the big city today through music, poetry, and storytelling. Well, in the metro area anyway. We headed to the Colorado Cowboy Gathering in Golden. Brought our favorite Friday question, asking our neighbors to share the good in their lives.
To start off with one called Colorado Trail.
My good news is that we have the best weather for January than we've had at our gathering in years.
My good news is I get to be on the open mic tomorrow morning, and it's the first time in the 3 years that I've got enough courage to do that.
It's so moving, and it makes you feel connected from the roots that got us to where we are today, and being in Golden, Colorado just is so fitting for what we do.
My good news is I'm here at the Colorado Cowboy Gathering.
This is an annual celebration.
There you go.
Keeping the West alive through cowboy music and poetry and storytelling.
I always get a kick out of people saying, do you know any old Gene Autry songs?
Tonight's my chance to come and get sung to instead of having to sing to everybody. This is really my good news for the day.
All along, along, along.
My good news is that life is abundant, and if you allow the abundance, it makes life amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Isn't it nice to have some positivity on the news? Your feedback next. Feedback tonight from a viewer who says, you better mention that strike walkout protest. Ma'am, it was the second story in the newscast. You got to get to church on time. You could miss your favorite hymn. Number 2, this is regarding the word of thanks this week for thriving families. Been there, done that. After my dear baby girl was born, honored to help someone else who needs that oh so important support, right? Life-changing for mother and child. Talking about generations of a family to start off right. And John says, I get it. You never know when a nice cannoli might present itself, but you ought to return that Italian restaurant's napkin. I will. Right after dinner tonight, okay? See you next time.